We spend so much time talking about the brains of artificial intelligence, the chatbots, the image generators, and the code. But we rarely talk about the physical heart that keeps it all beating. If you want to understand the world in 2026, you have to look past the software. You have to look at the silicon. Welcome back to AI Files. I am glad you are here with us again because today we are talking about the company that actually owns the ground we are all standing on, NVIDIA.
Titan is right. Think about it this way. If the race for AGI is a gold rush, most people are looking at the miners. They're looking at OpenAI, Google, and Meta. But you? You should be looking at the man selling the shovels. In the 1850s, the miners rarely got rich. The people who sold the tools did. Today, Jensen Huang and NVIDIA have built a monopoly so deep and so wide that they have essentially become the central bank of human intelligence. In our last file, we talked about the $14 billion hole in OpenAI's pocket. Well, if you follow that money, it does not just vanish into thin air. It lands right on NVIDIA's balance sheet. Today, we are going to show you why NVIDIA is the only company that truly matters in 2026, and why the Silicon Cold War is a lot closer to your front door than you might think.
It is honestly staggering when you look at the numbers. Just this month, in January 2026, NVIDIA's market cap has hit a point where it is worth more than the entire stock markets of some developed nations. But it is not just about the money. It is about control. Every single time you use an AI tool, you are using an NVIDIA chip. There is almost no way around it. They have created a world where they are the only ones providing the oxygen. And as you are about to see, they are starting to decide who gets to breathe and who does not.
You have to understand that this did not happen by accident. It was a decades-long gamble. For years, the world thought NVIDIA was just for gamers. They were the graphics card guys. But while everyone else was focused on the internet and mobile apps, Jensen Huang was betting on something much bigger. He was betting that one day we would need to simulate reality itself. And to do that, you need massive parallel processing power. You need GPUs. Now, in 2026, that gamble has paid off so well that NVIDIA does not just sell chips anymore. They sell the infrastructure of civilization. When you see those massive server farms popping up in places like Iowa or Texas, you are looking at NVIDIA's architecture. They have moved from being a component in your PC to being the foundation of the global economy.
And it is not just the hardware that keeps everyone locked in. Have you ever heard of CUDA? It is the software platform that developers use to talk to the chips. NVIDIA spent 20 years making sure that if you want to build high-level AI, you have to use CUDA. It is the ultimate golden cage. Even if Google or Amazon builds a chip that is technically faster, it does not matter because the entire world's code is already written for NVIDIA. You cannot just switch. It would be like trying to drive a car on a road that only accepts one specific type of tire. NVIDIA owns the road, the tires, and the fuel. Let's talk about the Blackwell chips and the 2026 successors that are hitting the market right now. These things are not just electronics, they are works of art. A single one of these chips has more transistors than there are people on Earth. But here is the catch. They are incredibly difficult to make. They are so complex that only one company in the world, TSMC in Taiwan, can actually manufacture them at scale. And this is where the story gets a bit dark. We are living in a time where the entire future of human intelligence depends on a single island that is caught in the middle of a geopolitical tug of war. If anything happens to those factories in Taiwan, the AI revolution stops. Instantly. No more updates, no more GPT-6, no more progress. You are looking at a single point of failure for the entire species. It is a scary thought, isn't it? That is why you are seeing the Silicon Cold War heating up. The US, China, and Europe are all desperately trying to build their own factories, their own foundries. But you cannot just build a factory like this overnight. It takes hundreds of billions of dollars and decades of expertise. So in the meantime, we are all just waiting. We are waiting to see who gets the next shipment of chips. In 2026, chips have become more valuable than oil. They are the new global currency. If a country wants to be a superpower in this century, they do not need more tanks. They need more GPUs.
And NVIDIA knows this. They are playing a very clever game of silicon diplomacy. They decide which companies get the latest chips first. If you are a favorite, like OpenAI or Microsoft, you get the top-tier hardware. If you are a rival or a smaller player, you might be waiting for months. This gives NVIDIA the power to pick the winners and losers of the AI race. They are not just a supplier, they are a kingmaker. You have to ask yourself, in a world where a single corporation has that much power, who is really in charge of our future? Is it the elected governments, or is it the people who own the silicon?
We also have to talk about the energy. These chips are hungry. They consume more power than anything we have ever built. The heat they generate is so intense that we are literally having to redesign how we build cities just to keep them cool. In 2026, the biggest limit on AI is no longer the code. It is the power grid. You might notice your electricity bills going up or new power plants being built in your area. A lot of that is because the demand for compute power is growing faster than we can produce energy. We are burning the planet's resources to power a digital mind. It is a trade-off that we haven't really had a public conversation about yet.
You see, the infinite archive we talked about in the last video, the dream of a perfect, immortal digital memory, requires an infinite amount of power, and NVIDIA is the only one providing the engine for that dream. But as we move further into 2026, the cracks are starting to show. Even the big players like Google and Amazon are terrified of how much power NVIDIA has over them. They are all trying to build their own chips now. Project Stargate, which we mentioned before, is partly an attempt by Microsoft and OpenAI to break free from this dependence. But so far, no one has been able to catch up. NVIDIA is moving too fast. Every time a competitor gets close, NVIDIA releases a new generation that is 10 times faster.
It feels like a race where the leader is getting faster every lap. But what happens when the race hits a wall? In 2026, we are starting to see the limits of physics. We are making transistors so small that they are almost the size of a single atom. We are reaching the end of what silicon can do. The next step might be quantum computing or biological chips, but those are still years away. For now, we are stuck with silicon. And that means we are stuck with NVIDIA.
So, what does this mean for you? It means that your digital life is being mediated by a company you might never have thought about 5 years ago. Every time you use an AI to write an email, plan a trip, or diagnose a medical issue, you are paying a silicon tax to NVIDIA. They are the invisible silent partner in every digital interaction you have. They are building a world where intelligence is a service, and they are the only provider. It is a brilliant business model, but it is also a massive responsibility. If NVIDIA fails, if their supply chain breaks, or if their technology hits a dead end, the modern world as we know it in 2026 comes to a grinding halt.
We wanted to bring you this story because it is so easy to get distracted by the flashy new apps and forget about the reality on the ground. The AI revolution is a physical event. It is happening in factories, in mines, and in massive data centers that hum with the sound of thousands of NVIDIA chips. It is a world of heat, power, and high-stakes politics. And as we head deeper into this year, those stakes are only going to get higher.
The files on NVIDIA are far from closed. In fact, we are just beginning to see the true extent of their influence. From the cars you drive to the way your government makes decisions, the silicon shadow is everywhere. We should all be paying closer attention to what is happening in those clean rooms in Taiwan and the boardrooms in Santa Clara. Because in 2026, the people who own the chips own the future.
Thanks for staying with us through this deep dive. It is a lot to take in, we know, but staying informed is the only way to navigate what's coming next. We are keeping an eye on the next set of files, and there is a lot more to uncover. We will be back soon with more insights into the hidden forces shaping our world. This has been AI Files.
Take care of yourself out there. And remember, in a world of artificial intelligence, the most important thing is still your own. We will see you in the next one.